quick round of intros. So I'm Quinn, head of partnerships over at Replo. And we've got two awesome people from Jaywing. So Ash, do you want to intro yourself first?
Yeah, a quick intro. I'm e-commerce director at Jaywing. Yeah, working with a range of clients, but more like specializing in that e-commerce, like retail D2C space. Work really closely with Jake, which is probably a good segue into you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ash. Yeah, Jake, head of strategy and experimentation here at Jaywing. So I lead that strategy team across our e-commerce and lead generation clients here. So working really closely with them to deliver those strategies. But then my background is very much on conversion rate optimization, hence the experimentation side of things. So also lead our Crow team on delivering those sort of robust Crow programs that we run to try and get better CPAs across the board, which every client's chasing.
Of course. And can you give me a background too on Jaywing? Like, kind of, you guys have a good reputation, but just kind of walk me through, like, yeah, general, like, who your clients maybe are, or like industries, those types of things.
Ash, did you want to
Yeah,
take that one?
yeah. Jaywing's an interesting one. In Australia, we've been around for about 13 years. Prior to that, probably closer to like that 15-year mark, we were acquired by Jaywing, which is a British agency based out of Leeds and Sheffield in the UK. So we've got about 80 in Australia and another like 250 in the UK. We in Australia are very like performance focused, or at least like founded in performance marketing. That's really now expanded into like end to end creative agency as well. And I would say like the UK sector is more creative focused. Um, In terms of clients, I would say we have a lot more lead gen clients from my perspective when it comes to like retail. We work with brands like New Balance. Maya is one of our department stores, major department stores in Australia. Crocs, footwear brand, a bunch of different like surf, skate apparel brands, which are quite locally well known. Trying to have a think as well. I think those are probably the main ones.
Yep.
From a lead gen perspective, we've got a lot of clients in the like legal and fintech space,
Yep, higher education.
higher education. Yeah,
Probably covers
draw,
covers the top.
drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
drawing a bit of a
are you
blank.
doing everything from like the driving traffic piece, like paid ads, all the way through the funnel portion as well, where you're actually like taking the traffic and converting it?
Correct. Yeah. So I suppose when we look at the structure of our business, we've got like your paid team, which will do full funnel media, both like predominantly digital, but we also can run a bit of above the line activity. Jake, as you mentioned before, has that team that really specializes in conversion rate optimization, but they also kind of work very closely with the UX and UI team. So we have we'll build websites as well.
Okay. Okay.
And then in addition to that, we've got a sector which is like the brand and creative piece. So a lot of our clients tend to sort of come to us for one thing, and it ends up expanding into a number of different areas and service offerings. And I think where we sort of see our value and impact is being able to specialize in all of those different services and being able to provide like a holistic solution to client problems. And I suppose that's sort of a big part of Jake and I's role is speaking with clients, understanding their business needs, and then building out the strategy and telling them what we actually think that they need, instead of the other way around, sort of saying we want to run Google ads, and it's like, okay, but why? What are you trying to achieve? Like, what
Yep.
does success look like to you? And then we kind of build from there, build a
Got it.
solution then from there.
This is
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you guys have a lot of awesome clients and obviously expertise over the whole funnel or that whole customer journey. So I kind of want to dig into some of those more strategic tactics that you do when you're thinking of that. So like if someone, for example, like comes into you and says, we want to do Google ads, like kind of I want to break down like what you're walking them through to figure out, is that actually the right goal? And then how do we actually get you to what you want to achieve? And so I think like the first thing maybe I want to touch on is more like the actual testing piece of it. It's like your workflows for testing. So when you're thinking about testing, let's say it's a funnel, Where do those testing ideas actually come from, or how are you kind of going from that initial we want to test to actually like launching these tests?
Yeah, I can take that one. It's a great question. I mean, to wrap it up in a short enough summary here for this video, we really let the data decide everything. Quinn, our whole sort of motto through the agency is to be really, really data driven. So first of all, you're presented with an e-commerce website. Where are the biggest issues? Where are the biggest friction points in that funnel? Quite often, everyone just wants us to focus on the checkout or the product pages because they're the most obvious things that lead to that conversion. But we really want to let the data let us understand, is it actually the homepage that's seeing the biggest exit rates and not actually getting people down to those key areas of the website, which is the products, and then into the checkout. So we would run data analysis, whether it's through GA4, Adobe Analytics, whatever the client is using, and map out those user flows and identify the biggest drop-off points in that funnel. It's from there then, so you spoke about how do we get from like we want to test down to the actual test idea itself. Once you know where the biggest issues are, and quite often in our programs, we would spread our tests across those 5 key areas of an e-com website being, homepage, PLP, PDP, cart, and checkout. And then you have sort of the NAB in there as well. We do share the love to balance it out, but we would make sure we get high impact tests into those underperforming areas as quickly as possible. And once we know what those underperforming areas are, we would then try and understand, okay, what are the friction points on these pages? Is it paid traffic? That's the biggest friction points. Is it devices? Is it different audience groups? And then can we talk to these people and identify these people and even run, one-on-one interviews, kind of like what we're doing here, to get more qualitative, direct user feedback to understand how we can go about improving all of that, because the data tells us where the issue is. It doesn't tell us necessarily what the issue is itself, particularly if you're looking at a whole product page. It could be a number of things that could be causing that drop off from product visibility to add to cart. So it's important to then go, okay, if it's the PDP, why is it? And could be you could come up with 10 test ideas on the PDP, and then you structure them strategically in a prioritization order. And that's where you then lean on like a team like ours who's run thousands of tests. We've seen what we feel has the biggest impact. So we then can be quite tactical in our prioritization order to make a fast impact for our clients.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, go ahead, Ash.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think like what I feel is quite common in industry at the moment is like brands coming to us and saying, we want to do personalization, or we want to use a CDP, and they like want to throw all these big buzzwords around, and either they don't understand the investment levels behind it, or they don't understand the why. They've just kind of like heard of this thing and they want to do it. But like the approach that Jake and his team sort of take around like understanding on a really granular level where those friction points are, allows us to actually kind of say, hold on a second, before you go and invest all this time and all this money into like these big buzzwordy sort of things, there's actually some like data here that we can look at to suggest that, there's some quicker fixes that could be implemented along the way. And I think even down to like from a landing page perspective, like you were talking about before, Quinn, it's like when I think of New Balance and like how much product we've got on the move all the time, one thing that we're consistently doing is testing the landing pages of our paid campaigns to understand whether or not certain products perform better on a PLP level or a PDP level. Because as well, we've got a lot of unisex product ranges, but that's not necessarily reflected in the back end of the website. So how we do that in a way where we're speaking to the right people throughout ads and giving them the right landing page at the end can be quite different. I feel like I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but I'm keen to kind of understand as well, like from you around your product and like what we can do from a landing page perspective, or be a bit more bespoke.
Yeah, because I'm curious too, because like obviously like landing pages can have a ton of different formats. So do you think through as well like listicles where it's like, here are the top 5 reasons why this New Balance shoe is good for, I don't know, triathletes versus like someone, your everyday use? Or are you doing like advertorials, which are more like shoppable blog posts? Or is it kind of more of a standard, um, header, social proof, reviews, like those types of things too? Like, are you filtering all of those into your tests, or is like one, maybe you found like through all your experience that like one of those works better for different cohorts? Like, I don't know how you kind of think of those.
It's actually a really good question because I haven't thought about it in that way before. We're not running any editorial sort of pieces
Okay.
at all. Full funnel, it always goes to a commercial page.
That makes sense.
We're limited in the amount of editorial content that we can put on the site from a branding perspective, but I don't see why that isn't something that we could test, particularly as we know there's a lot of search volume around like shoe comparisons and like best shoes for certain types of running. Running's a huge focus for us at the moment, and we've got different types of shoes for long distance, short distance, whether it's your tempo run or whatever. I don't think we actually provide enough content around that, which helps from a consideration perspective. And that is actually something that we're trying to focus on at the moment, is that product consideration piece. So I'd be interested to know, like, if you've got any case studies around, those editorial sort of landing pages, I suppose, or like what shoe's best for you. We've got different commercial pieces on the site, and what I mean by that is more like comparison tools on the site.
Yeah.
But definitely not providing any, like longer form content to help the user understand what shoe is best for them.
Yeah, and I mean, it really depends, obviously, on like every single brand, like who their target is and who the traffic is, like kind of determines which of those funnels makes the most sense. But I would say like that's one of the reasons I think a lot of people love using Replo, is because you can kind of spin up those experiences very quickly. Like previously, you'd have to, you can still have them on brand as well. Like you might save weeks from having to have your development team go and like custom build a long distance, short distance, triathlon, everyday use, like all those different types of cohorts. But you can kind of spin up those custom experiences really quickly. But at the same time, like one, maybe depending on the brand, you wouldn't get enough statistical significance to start. And so then you're just kind of running all these and you don't really know like which one's working or which one isn't. But I've also seen like that listicle, like the five reasons why, be like a initial starting point that some of our brands use. But yeah, at the end of the day, it comes back to the data, and then it also just depends. Like for a shoe company, they've got tons of different variants, tons of different SKUs. So maybe in that case, an education-based funnel or options like that make more sense. But then there's some brands that we work with that have one product that everyone generally knows what the product is, and so it's like maybe makes more sense just send them to a traditional landing page or a PEP as well. But yeah, that's kind of also like there's a million different tests that you can run. Like Jake, you were kind of mentioning that too, and like how do you actually figure out which one's going to be the most impactful, but also like balance that with the effort it's going to take to launch them. So yeah, that's kind of also a long thing, but that's how we kind of think about it.
Aligning with the area of the funnel that they're in, like the education funnel versus more of those bottom of the funnel paid campaigns. You're going to be wanting to send them to different pages and have different content or more action orientated content. So there's a whole host of things to definitely consider. But yeah, it's quite interesting, that thought process of getting up those more longer form landing pages.
You mentioned Adobe and GA4. Like, are there other tools in this sense of like data analytics, attribution, like those types of things that you at Jaywing like are like, we have to use these, or how do you navigate all that, the heat maps, all that type of stuff that can exist?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like a lot of the clients come to us with their tech stack in place already. So we have quite a lot of experience across a lot of different platforms just because we get exposure to them, which is great. If clients come to us for specific recommendations, like we certainly provide those as well. On my side of things, like platforms that I really love to use, Content Square, we found extremely valuable for quite a number of our clients. It's like, are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
It's sort of like heat maps, but essentially steroids basically. So instead of just getting all the hotspots and everything like that, you can then tie it into more specific metrics such as the tap rates, but then more importantly, tie it back into conversion rate per tap or revenue per tap. So you're actually getting not just, hey, this is getting high engagement. You can see the impact that it has on the user in terms of a purchase conversion rate or a revenue perspective. So it gives you a tie-in from like a vanity metric of engagement to actually revenue. So you know, the few clients that we're working with on that platform, like we find that the test ideation becomes so much more robust, and the idea that you actually come up with is backed by much heavier and more supportive bits of data, because you can dive deeper. But then more importantly, the test analysis, once it's completed, you can really get a deep understanding on what's been going on, particularly if you are looking at more of those top of funnel test activity. Of course, cart checkout, it's really easy to understand the revenue impact, but if you're exploring tiles on the homepage and testing different strategies of implementation or content population for those, having a tool to be able to tie that back to revenue is really important.
Cool. That's really interesting. Can you think of any tests or landing page launches, anything like that you've done recently that you can kind of walk us through, like a successful one of what it looks like, maybe like what some of the data was, anything like that?
Put me on the spot here. I'm not sure how much data we'd be able to share on this call, but I suppose something like, in terms of our process, I'll take you back to a test we ran a few years ago for a client. So they were a big sort of US, UK client working in a bit more of the, what would you call it, like crockery, crystalware space. Anyway, we wanted to look at how their desktop product page was performing, and felt that we could really improve image scrolling, whilst then, like, we didn't want it to detract away from image scrolling and wanted to boost up the visibility of the call to actions. The business was currently investing a lot of money into getting new images onto the site as well, and we felt that the current design that they had was not bringing to light those hero images. They just had one like hero and then a lot of thumbnails along the bottom. So we wanted to feature those images, but then creating that redesign where we had them presented almost as a grid format stacked on top of each other, then presented a challenge of how do you make sure that the key information such as title, price, call to action remain visible. So we then essentially had to think about how we approach that challenge as well. And a lot of websites are doing this now, but we ended up making the product information on the right sticky, so that you've got this really nice immersive feel with the images, whilst also having title, price, add to cart, product description, all visible on the right-hand side of the page. And ended up performing exceptionally well. I got really, really significant increases in terms of add to cart rate and then transaction rates, which the client was over the moon with, which was an amazing result, and something that they then rolled out to implementation across all of their brands and regions. Yeah.
Cool. The one other thing too, Ash, when we were talking about like listicles, I was thinking about kind of going back to that. It's like quizzes and like quiz funnels. Do you integrate any of those into like the strategy of like asking someone questions about themselves and then recommending products, or like anything like that within the strategies?
No, we haven't. And I think that is largely led by the clients that we've got at the moment and their branding guidelines.
Okay.
I am really wanting to work with more clients that are probably like not necessarily that enterprise level, a bit newer, a bit happier to test the boundaries and be a bit more risky. And that is kind of like the perfect example of one thing that we could do with that. I would still love to see like any case studies that you've got. I think, for us, or for me as well, at least like in the next couple of months, it's a really big focus to try and get more of those like retail clients who are happy to be a bit more agile and a bit more testing of the boundaries, I suppose.
On that point, Quinn, like I used to work with an international coffee brand, and we did quite a lot of this testing around the different types of coffee pods that they had available. Of course, coffee is a very, very personalized choice. Some people, yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, some people want it light. Some people, want it to really knock you off in the morning. So, yeah, we explored a lot of different testing around the quiz and how we not only get people to actually engage with that, because quite often engagement around those sorts of things is very, very low. So we wanted to increase engagement because we knew when users had engaged with it and got to the end of it, the comparison conversion rate of a normal user not engaging with it versus engaging with it was, 50% higher. So it's like, okay, we know this is an ideal user journey. How do we promote more people that currently aren't motivated to enter into this journey, or maybe don't understand what it's going to output to them? How do we get them into it and then completing it? So that was something we focused a lot on. And it's all, for me, it's all about like getting that starting goal, which is getting more people to enter into the quiz. And then once we have got more traffic flooding into there, we can start solving maybe some of the drop-offs we see within the quiz as well. So that was, a big thing we focused on it. Got a lot of positive revenue uplift out of it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I'll send you some thoughts around that too, Ash, from what you were mentioning. Yeah, there's like a million, that's add one to the million ideas that you can implement. I'm also curious, like what either of you think people are putting too much importance on in, like, let's say 2025. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's something else. But like, what's something that people are like putting too much importance on and they're forgetting about, like an essential part of their business that could grow leads or sales, anything like that.
I
Yeah.
have one, it's been more of a trend I've sort of noticed over the last few years, and I think I sort of touched on it before, is like businesses hearing buzzwords and wanting to invest heavily in MarTech that, they something like a CDP or like Telium, for example, businesses who like implement that don't understand that actually then they need to hire someone who can like manage it and monitor it, pull the data, and actually make see actionable insights. I think like probably just getting back to basics and doing things like understanding the way people are engaging on your site through like existing data that you've got. So like Jake was talking about before, utilizing something as simple as GA to work out where the drop-offs are, what devices are working, what audiences are underperforming, that sort of thing, instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on like big tools and then not really having a long-term plan on how you're going to implement this in a meaningful way for the business ongoing.
Yeah. I definitely support Ash's point. I was probably going to go down a back to basics route as well, which I'll change now. But on that, I just think
Sorry.
a lot of no, you're right. A lot of clients, they do want to sort of run before they're necessarily walking in that UX and UI space when it comes to conversion rate optimization. There's always really key foundational improvements that can be made. And my thinking behind this is like when I get on a new client, I want to make the biggest impact. So diving straight into personalization where it might impact like a niche percentage of users on that website is not sort of my first starting point. I want to test win that encompasses the majority of that funnel that's coming into the website, because that's where they're going to see the biggest revenue uplifts, and we're going to have success together in our partnership. But I think back onto your original question, Quinn, I think a lot of clients are still putting so much importance on their paid activity, and they should be, but it's looking at where you're directing that paid traffic to go. We really encourage clients that work with us on the paid media side to be working with the experimentation team as well, or at the very least, running projects to make sure that the landing pages that we're driving traffic to are improved, because at the end of the day, the paid team gets measured on the performance of conversions. And if we haven't got the right landing pages in place to capture leads or capture sales, then the paid team's going to be measured on that. So I think it's looking at not only just paid as what's going through the Google Ads platform or the Meta platforms, but it has to encompass what's on your website as well and where we're driving people to.
Got it. Awesome. I've got a bunch more questions, but I know we're at time, so I'll stop it there. Unless I'll let you both have the spotlight in case there's anything else you want to share or any other interesting tidbits that in e-commerce or even like someone B2B or higher ed, those types of audience members would get value from.
Nothing from
Anything else?
me at the
You good? You shared it
I'm
all?
good.
I love it. All right. Cool.